Hey there, welcome to Authentically Raw. I'm your host, Jamie Berris. Hello, and welcome to the Authentically Raw podcast. I'm doing a bit of an introduction today with my guest because I had some internet troubles this day. At the beginning was so glitchy that I'm sweeping out our introduction together and replacing it. So I do want to let you know our guest, Riya Sokol, did thank me for having her on the Authentically Raw podcast. And a little bit about Riya. She is an artist, a mindset mentor, international speaker, and a tantric coach. She is famously known for her viral video dubbed "Thank You Coronavirus," which I urge everyone to check out. It is a fabulous video, maybe 3 minutes long, on YouTube, thanking coronavirus for so many things. And I think it's a good refresher for all of us. It really got me thinking again and kind of a little reset. And I do want to say, we do touch on it a little bit in this interview, but this is not really what we talk about mostly. Riya, among several things, coaches people through divorce or conflict, and she calls it sacred divorce or sacred separations. And what led Riya to this is her parents divorced when she was young. There was a lot of anger and animosity, and she felt very broken. And she vowed to never go through divorce herself or put children through that. And then here she was. She found herself on the brink of divorce, and she had 2 daughters and knew it was the thing that had to be done. But she made the vow. She said, I will not let this break my family. Instead, I choose to let this divorce extend my family. So Riya took that vow and went to her ex and his new wife, and they now have 2 twin daughters, which are 2 years old, and decided she wanted to make this one big patchwork sort of family, that there was not going to be this pain and conflict, because Riya says this beautifully. It is not the divide that causes children the pain. It's not the divorce or the division that causes children the pain. It is when the parents do not heal from their pain. And there is this anger and the fighting, and the kids feel broken because of that. And I could not agree more. This was not an easy process, and I know it's consistent work that they will be doing, but Riya has gone so far to basically consider her ex's twin daughters her nieces. She clearly explains that this addition is, it's part of her own children. She has 2 daughters, and their sisters are part of their lives. And as a mom, she wants to include everyone. So this wasn't easy. It's not for everyone. However, Riya describes the process beautifully. And I think anyone can relate to this, because we have all been affected by divorce, whether we are going through one, we have been through one, a family member, a best friend has went through one, or you are an adult child and product of divorced parents. We are all affected by divorce, and we know what it does, the ripple effect on many relationships, if the pain, is not healed amongst the people that are getting divorced. So this is a must listen. It is such a powerful conversation. Riya is an amazing woman, and I will let her take it away, because all of those glitches, we have no other choice, and we're diving right in to her story. So enjoy.
It was the biggest pain that I've experienced as a child when my parents got divorced. And I didn't realize for a very long time that the pain that I was carrying, the anxieties, the sleeplessness, was not coming from them getting divorced. It was coming from them hating each other after that, not communicating and being biggest enemies. Because I think this is what causes the sensation in the child of something being broken, something being, cut into half. And basically, because as we are children, and you've experienced that too, for the first 5 to 7 years, mom and dad are like one. It's like our whole world. There is mom, dad, and that's all. So when there is a divorce, it feels like the world is being broken, and this is hard, and especially if the parents are not communicating, and if there is so much pain that they are not able to handle it, because this is how it was with my parents. It's not they are bad people, they are incredible people. They are the most fantastic parents. However, the pain was so big that they couldn't handle it. So the only way to handle it was just to erase each other from each other's lives. And this was traumatic for me. And when I was a teenager, I was on a therapy, and this is when I realized that after they started talking, about 10 years later, so when I was 13, I suddenly felt this forgiveness and this ease and this calmness, because they are talking again together. Like my world came back on the place. They didn't get back together. They just started acknowledging each other. And this was huge. And I still had a vow that I will never get divorced, that I will never cause so much pain to my children. And yeah, it was a huge one when I met myself one day in the front of the mirror, and the decision was already made. So I knew that I'm breaking my vow. Me and my husband were getting divorced, and I was clear about it. And like, as I like saying, only thing I saw when I was looking in the mirror was the word failure on my forehead, and I couldn't get rid of it. I literally felt like I failed. And from there, it's this moment when you realize you don't have a choice, and like things are happening. It's like, okay, the glass was broken. It's done. So will I carry blaming myself and being disappointed with myself and hating myself that it got broken, or will I make some serious decisions from here to do my best from here? And I did, and I made a decision about making this family not broken but extended. Like I gave myself permission to create bigger family. So I knew that once we get divorced and we're going to have another partners, we still want to be friends, and we still want to include in our family our partners. And this was our idea. And it was crazy idea. And many moments in our lives when we were like in this most difficult moments, like in the midst of the divorce, it was super challenging for both of us, and many times, and for our partners too. And many times we wanted to give up. I wanted to give up. I wanted to just get rid of him, because it's so much pain. It's so much grief. It's so much sadness. It's so much like it's a whole range of emotions. Mm-hmm. And the moment you decide to meet all of them and embrace all of them and commit to always feel bigger than the emotions, and to commit to keep walking towards your desire, towards your dream, no matter what happens, this is what made me survive. And I'm super proud of it, because just now we have this extraordinary family. Yesterday they were here with their twins, because now they have twins, my ex-husband, and we were here with my family, with my mom, with my grandma, and his brothers and their children. So we spent so much time together, and their children were here, the twins, and I went for a walk with the twins. They are 2 years old. I went on a walk with them, because as you can imagine, parents of twins that are 2 are really exhausted. So I said, okay, I'm going to take them for a walk. You speak to our family, you take your time. And I went on a walk, and someone asked me on the walk, "Oh, beautiful children you have." And I'm like, "Oh, these are not my children. These are children of my ex-husband." They were so confused. What?
Yeah.
What? Are you back with him? Are you divorced and you have children with him? And I'm like, no, no, no. It's his wife and his, and they're in my flat, and I'm here. So we have so much fun. There is so much love, and many times with my daughters also, I'm wondering, like we discuss it, like how much love we would miss if we didn't go through that hell, because it was hell. I admit it. It was hard, but the amount of love that we are experiencing now, the love that I have towards these children, my daughters, with them, their connection, like it's overflowing love, and it was worth it.
Yeah. And it is true. They are your daughter's sisters, and they are a big part of your daughter's world. And just acknowledging that and embracing it and loving them too, I think I can only imagine how that brings even a closer connection with you and your daughters, because you're loving something that they love instead of seeing it as some sort of a threat, or that's the word that came to me, or some sort of like a wedge between almost you and your daughters, because here it's like they have this other family, and I can only imagine how easy it would be to let envy set in. You know, you're sharing your daughter now, or your daughters, with a stepmom and half sisters. And if you didn't take the effort you did, because wow, there was a lot of effort there to really try to make this work, where you would be now. And that leads me to my next question. Was there a moment or a time that you decided, because this is huge, this is not typical, this isn't common, to have such a good relationship with an ex, and as you're speaking, it just made me feel how much love you have for your daughters, because it could easily, sometimes it's easier to just disconnect from that other part of their life, which is their dad. And it's hard for kids, you know that. So was there some moment that you decided, okay, this is what I want it to look like? And how did you ever approach this sort of a relationship?
I think that the reason that people are cutting off, just like my parents did, is lack of ability to deal with pain. Because, as I said, the amount of pain that I had to process is tremendous. It's a lot of pain when you're loving someone and then you separate, like you create the house, you create the home, you create children, you create your dreams, you create everything with them, and then suddenly it's like, oh, it's over. Mm-hmm. It's over, like there is nothing there anymore. So this is painful, and very often it comes with betrayal, it comes with cheating, like all sorts of tragic things. And this is how it was with my parents. And I can imagine that people just give up. They just close the door and they don't want to process this pain. They don't want to touch it anymore. So I want to be very empathic, like compassionate about people who choose that, because I understand it. And what really made me committed was, as you said, my children and my trauma, because I remembered my pain, and there was no way I rather it my children to suffer than myself.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, now I'm choosing, and I know what to do with pain. I'm an adult, I'm responsible, I'm mature, I have tools to deal with my emotions. there was a time when I imagined that my ex-husband is going to have another children and another family, I was having this anxiety, panic attacks, like I couldn't breathe. I was like, no, no, no. Like it was just absolutely unacceptable for me. It was so painful. And it's literally like with the muscle. It's like when it's tensed, you don't immediately squeeze it. You just slowly massage it until it relaxes, and then another millimeter, and then another millimeter, and you just keep getting deeper and deeper until it relaxes. And this is what you do with everything that hurts you. You just massage it very slowly. So this is what I was doing, and I had this vision of us creating this incredible family, although I didn't know anybody. I didn't know any family who did it. I felt totally alone. I felt lonely. I felt people were calling me crazy. People were saying like, this is insane. Like they were saying it's toxic. So very often we hear, until now, me and my ex-husband and his wife, we often hear like, this is toxic from people. Like, I'm a public person, so people, sometimes comment on it. And again, I understand it. It's easier to judge it than to process that. But as you beautifully said, it was the love towards my children. It was bigger than my pain. And it was also this, like when I was imagining me in 20 years, they are having their wedding. They have their sisters. They are having, his dad and his partner there. And what? Like, how do I want to be able to be in the same room with them if I don't take care of that relationship? So it really forced me to do that. And as you also beautifully said, like there is mom, dad, there is sister, and there is half sister. It's like, it's on the one hand, it's the closest people in my daughter's lives, the sisters. The other day they were saying, they were sharing with me about their friend who just had a brother, that had a brother with another woman, and because of the conflict, they are not even acknowledging that they have a brother. They say, no, I don't have a brother. And this is painful. This is something that needs to be healed. And it probably will be. Like I know many stories that are being healed after a lot of time. So I truly believe in that. But this is something that is really precious and really priority to do.
Right. You know what popped up too is when people say, oh, this is toxic. And I hope this doesn't come across as, I'm just going to say it but those, unfortunately, comments like that come from people that are not mature enough or responsible enough to really truly face their pain and go through it and heal from it. Because if they don't, then it's toxic to everybody else. Then it's this toxic environment for your children. And only you know whether it's toxic or not. And all of you getting along and the love that is there between everyone, that's not toxic at all whatsoever. But it shows the level that it is hard to really go through and sit with that pain, because so many people just walk away. But what happens with that pain is it doesn't go away over time. It often builds, and it does turn into to just anger or the resentment. And who wants to end up a bitter old person? No one. But in the long run, it only would have damaged your relationship with your daughters, because you did mention when I was reading the story a little bit about, just I think even with your own parents, how when they not dealing with the anger, the resentment, or things like that and going their way. And then it comes to you. And it does land on kids a lot. And what are your thoughts on that? Speak on that for me.
Well, for me personally, and this is like my wisdom, thanks to this incredible pain that I went through. Personally, for me, when my mom was speaking bad about my dad, I felt she's speaking about me. And I couldn't understand why. The other thing was that my dad cheated on my mom and left us, which I experienced. And I had a memory that he cheated on me and he left me. And I also couldn't understand that. Neither of that was fact. It was my experience. It was how I felt it, how I received it, how I perceived it. And I realized after many, many years of getting deeper, digging deeper in my subconscious, in the mechanisms of, the human beings and of myself, it makes so much sense. It's like there is mom, there is dad, there is child. Child is made 50-50, mom and dad. So when she's talking about my dad, she's talking about 50% of me. So she is talking about me, although she doesn't want to. And she would say, I didn't say anything about you. She didn't, but she did. Right. So this is another thing, because not only after divorce, it's important always, even if you're still married, how you talk about each other in the front of your child, because they will always feel as the result of two people. So they will always feel it subconsciously that you are talking about them. And this is what really, forced me to be aware of the words that I'm using. So even if I don't agree with him, even if he does things that are making me mad, he's breaking all the rules that we have in our house when they are there and so forth, I always acknowledge it. Even if I think it's the most stupid thing, like eating, candies in the middle of the night, it makes me crazy, angry. But I always say, listen, he's got his right to have his own rules, exactly how I have the right to have my own rules. And we all have to respect it. Just like you have to respect my rules, you have to respect his rules. When you're going to grow up, you're going to have your own rules. And your husband will have another rules. It's like, this is the way we deal with it. No one is right here. So this is super important piece for me in terms of relating with my ex and in general between parents.
Right. And the hard thing with that too is if you don't, I don't think that parents would, married, divorced, whatever, intentionally try to hurt their kids when you say something about, whether it's the spouse or the ex. But it does. I mean, it's because we love our parents. And like you said, we're half of each, right? And it does feel not just an attack on that other person. It does feel like a personal attack a lot. And when that starts at a really early age, how confusing that is for kids. And I don't know if you ever felt this, but even being from divorced parents at a young age, there is so much, you don't understand, obviously, but I can always remember being guarded of what I say about one parent in front of the other, because I didn't want to make them upset, because, you internalize everything as they're upset with me. And to give kids that freedom that you can talk, say anything freely to you as a parent about the other parent, and you feel safe sharing, is a huge gift, in that your daughters just on both sides can feel safe sharing things, their emotions, their struggles, just whatever it is, without feeling that they have to guard and really hold back. And I think children of divorced parents put that guard up right off the bat.
I love that you're mentioning it. Like, we could do the high five, because I had exactly the same thing with my parents. I was scared if I'm not going to say too much or too little, or shut down, or be too open, or be too enthusiastic, or be too sad. It was like constant control. Yes. And it was also very important for me that my children feel safe to say whatever they want. If I'm going to hear something that I don't like even last week, I think it happened, that they told me about something that he didn't have the time to agree with me, but he already told them. Mm-hmm. It's like, so I am getting the information from my children. It's like this thing of like, I'm taking you to vacations, and then I have the information from my kids, and it's like, it's confirmed, we're going. So of course my first reaction is like, what?
Ugh, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But this is the moment when I have to ask myself, like, what is more important now? Because if I react like that, for my children, it will be, we did something wrong. We said too much, it's immediately.
The communication is shut down.
Totally. So I really, even if I'm shocked, even if I'm confused, even if I didn't know, even if I'm angry because I told him 1,000 times to speak to me first, it's like, I'm going to say, oh, that's fantastic. And then I'm going to call him, and not like next day when they are in school, and I'm going to say, okay, let's talk about it, because this is what just happened. Can we do our communication better? So because we are really like, it started in a way, it was really hard at the beginning because there were a lot of emotions and so forth. Just now we're friends. So I'm laughing at that. It's like, of course. Hi, do you remember me? I'm the mom of your children. Did you forget to tell me something? So we are, joking about each other's flaws, but it took us years to come here. At the beginning, it was the biggest trigger. So we had to go through that. And the reaction is crucial here. So if we really want to take care of our kids, we, as an adults, as mature people, we have to go to the therapist or to our coach or to, our friends to digest and process things, and never do it in front of people, in front of children, because it's harming
them.
Yes, it's harming. Yes, it's
definitely
harming.
Yes. So what is your relationship like with his wife then? That has to be a challenge, or was it not?
I love that you're asking about it, because it's another big piece, which is because I very often hear, like, what if I don't like her? People think it's an excuse not to make a relationship. People think that you like something because it's like something meant to be, like you're meant to like someone or you're not meant to like someone. You don't get to choose whom you like. And I don't believe in that. I believe that I get to choose whom I like. I get to choose where do I invest my feelings, my attention, my love, my care. And there was a moment when I had to decide that, because I knew, I asked him, is this the woman that you want to spend your life with? And he said, yes. So I said, okay, so now it's time for me. Like, what can I do from here? I can either keep hating him for that. I can either stay in the pain of not being chosen, of being abandoned, of being not less important, less whatever. Or I could say, okay, this hurts. This goes to my therapist. And now I'm going to go to the coach, which will tell me step by step what needs to be done, right? I didn't have a coach, but this is what I would do now. And back then I was like, okay, the first thing I need to do is I need to call her, because probably he wants to meet our children with her. So I need to do it first. So I needed to call her. I knew her because they were working together, of course. But I called her and we had a meeting, and then we had another meeting, and we kept talking, and we kept, exchanging who we are, what we like, what is our past, what are our, things that are important for us. How do we imagine, our lives in next 5 or 10 years? Where do we want to go? How do we want to create? Like, we had to discuss it all. And there was no one asking, like, but do you like each other? No one asked me if I liked her. No one cared if I liked her. My ex-husband didn't care if I liked her. No one asked her if she likes me. No one gave her a choice. Like, it was like, here you are in your lives forever. Forever. It's not a joke.
It just makes me think, though, that that's not the real question. Do you like her? It's, do you love your kids? There's your answer. And that's why you're meeting with her. And that's why you're trying to make this work. Do you love your kids? And you do. Obviously.
And the most beautiful thing is that they hated her. When they heard the first time I'm going to meet her, and I told them in a purpose, because I wanted them to know that I am going to see her, they were mad. They were like little kids that were shouting at me that they hate her and that I shouldn't be meeting her. And this was the reason why I knew I have to meet her, because I cannot allow the anger that is in me, because there was still an anger. I couldn't allow for them to take it from me. So I was like, I am going to process that on my therapy, and I'm going to meet her. And then every time I was meeting her, I was telling them, I'm going with Gosha for lunch. I'm going to, shopping with her. I'm going on a trip with her. Like, we kept spending our time together, and I was sharing it with them. And every meeting, they felt more soft about it. And after some time, like, she is number 2 most important woman in their lives. She is the life of their dad. Like, how can I dismiss it? How can I neglect it? How can I pretend it's not happening? She took care of them. She was cooking for them. She was spending vacations with them. She was loving them. She didn't have to do all that. Right. But she also knew, like, we're doing it. This is the train we stepped into, and we're doing it. So it hurts. She was also feeling a lot of pain, because I was the first one to have children with him. For some time, they still didn't have kids. And it took time. So there was also, for her, it wasn't easy for her, and I know it. And we were supporting each other. We were sometimes crying together, sometimes we're screaming together, sometimes we're hating together, but we kept walking, because I answered the question you asked. Do I love my kids?
Yeah, and absolutely. Yes. And I think even if, say, kids are approving and accepting of a step parent, or whether they're not, like, in either case, they need that reassurance of the green light. It's okay to open your heart and love someone else. It's okay. Like, you're not only giving them an example of what it's like to open your heart and invite someone else in, but a huge real life example of forgiveness on so many levels. And I, even with my parents both remarried, and let's say my dad when I was 7 and my mom when I was 12, so I was fairly young when my step parents came into my life, and they are wonderful people. And I know that feeling like I can love them from, you know, my real parents it's huge. And you don't think, I guess I've never really thought of how much I needed that, even as an adult. And without that, it doesn't just affect the relationships, I think, between, you know, the parents and, you know, the divorce, like all of that. It affects all of your relationships, because how even we talked, you know, it just being guarded on things, or, you know, everyone wants to feel like they are free to love and accept who feels good to them. And like, you know, being able to forgive people. And without that, it would be almost giving your, I don't know, hard heart keeps coming up for me. You know, if your heart was so hard, then what kind of example does that set to your children in modeling to them, like, okay, you're angry. They were angry. They didn't probably just want to even give their stepmom a chance, or when they were dating in the beginning. Their decision was made up in their mind. I'm sure it was her. She broke up everything. And it was basically more probably everything you did, more of a show, don't tell, that helped them in so many ways, I think, set them up for life in a lot of their relationships.
This is, I think, one of the motivations that we create the model of dealing with conflicts, with heartbreak, with sadness, with anger, with divorce, with being disappointed. They look at us and they don't listen to what we have to say about it. They don't listen, our opinion about how you should behave when you have a conflict. So you sit down and you talk to the other person. You don't shout at them. You're not angry. You just try to communicate. You try to go on compromises. They don't listen to that.
No.
They do their own thing. But what they for sure do, they are looking at us, how we deal with conflicts. And they are copy pasting it literally.
Watching and absorbing, right?
Literally, it's like, it's effortless, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to worry about it. It's just being done as you do it. So when I was imagining, like, what will my daughters take from this experience? How will they copy paste it? I felt like it was kicking my ass. It was like whenever I wanted to explode and I was ready to break it all down, I was like, okay, I don't want my daughters to suffer like that. I don't want them to see that. And it's not like, I'm not saying we're not allowed to show our emotions in front of our children. I cry a lot in front of my children. I share my feelings, my emotions. Like, I'm super open because I'm an extrovert. So I always share. But I can share, or I can share. I can share in so many different ways. So when I'm crying, I don't pretend it's like nothing happened, everything is fine. Or other extreme, which is I'm crying because of your dad. He did this and this. Like, these are extremes. So what I do is, like, I'm crying because I feel sad, because I feel frustrated, because I'm angry, but I'm an adult and I'm going to handle it. And I'm safe. You're safe. You can really relax because I know how to handle it. Everything, I'm going to be fine. I know how to handle my anger and my tears.
Right.
You're safe. And this is how I share. So I'm not about, repressing and doing the mask in front of my children. Like, I never do. I'm super expressive. Yeah. But there is another point, like forgiveness, that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. This one is huge. Like, this is for probably another meeting, but this is something that we think, I like to say that we think that we are punishing the other person, but we're actually punishing ourselves and everyone around us. So practicing the forgiveness is crucial also here.
Because the forgiveness is not about saying, what either party did, your ex-husband is okay. It's acknowledging it and working through it and releasing it from your heart for your own good. Because when we don't, and we carry all of that with us, that was, I mean, it kind of leads me back to that hard heart. You know, our hearts get hard and heavy, and we carry all that stuff from our past with us, and it does just, it comes out sideways all over the place. And without that forgiveness, it's just letting it go. And I think forgiveness for me too, it's 100% about healing yourself. And I think so many people wrap it around the other person. It's not, it's about us. It's about healing ourselves, allowing ourselves to get rid of and work through that anger, the rage, the hate, the sadness, whatever emotion it is, that's forgiveness. And you can't, like you said, you can't sit down with your kids and preach that. You have to model it. I do want to read this, and I hope it's still, and we may have talked about it already, but the very last paragraph that I read in your story, it was so powerful. I want to read that. As I look back at my now, or I didn't grab my glasses. I realize as I look back at my vow, I realize I never broke it. I promised not to make my kids suffer, and so I did. It became clear for me it's not the divorce that causes pain, but the way the parents relate with each other afterward. Sometimes bad things happen, people hurt each other, get lost in the marriage, and wake up when there is no other way but to separate. But we can always choose what we do as a next step. Do we hold the resentment, or do we transform it into forgiveness? Do we drown in bitterness, or do we heal, let go, and move on? And this will determine if the family will be broken or extended. Oh my goodness, Riya, that is so incredibly powerful. And a couple things that just really stuck out. It became clear to me it's not the divorce that causes pain, but the way parents relate with each other afterward. And that is not just in the wake of right afterward. I mean, that can be decades down the road when your grown children now are starting their families. And so much there. Just speak on that. There was so many powerful things you said.
So first of all, I'm writing a book now that is called Sacred Divorce, and I'm going to do an audiobook, and I want you to read it.
I'm in. Hey.
The way you read it gave me chills. I was like, who wrote it?
That would be awesome. I might hold you to that.
Amazing. Like how much, oh my God, what happened there? Amazing, beautiful. Thank you. Yes, we've got a deal. I saw this meme a few days ago when someone said that we need to take our trauma and turn it into the gift. And I saw the other person, I think there was Julia Roberts from Notting Hill, who said like, what? Or something like that. It was in answer, it was like, what? Trauma into gift? And this was the meme, but I understand that it sounds crazy. But Gabor Mate is talking about it a lot. So many, psychologists, psychotherapists are talking about it. Like there is trauma, there is a door, and there is freedom. But we have to go through that door. And I think that it wasn't even my courage that made me go through that door. It was actually my pain, and it was actually me being super stubborn because I didn't couldn't handle the anger that was inside of me. I couldn't handle the blaming. I couldn't handle the guilt. I was like, I'm not going to live like that. I'm just going to do anything. And I didn't know what is on the other side. I just kept pushing the door because I was freaking angry about what happened. I was angry with my parents. I was angry with my step parents. I was angry with my whole family because they all were participating in that divorce. Like they were, it was the divorce of the whole family. So I held so much anger. And this is what, like, this is what pushed me through that door. And then there was pain, and I kept walking because I was clear that I'm not gonna live like this. So I can easily say that the trauma took me here, because also remembering this pain, I knew that I'm going to do anything not to allow my children to go through that. So we can do many beautiful things with the pain.
And I relate to so much of that. You have to finally take responsibility for yourself. And it's kind of, I always say every so often, there's so many terms that I coin it in myself. You have to have a little bit of tough love with yourself, and you have to call bullshit on yourself sometimes. Enough's enough. I am storing all of this inside of me. I'm walking around just on repeat, all this betrayal, the anger, the rage, and it literally will kill you from the inside out. It crushes your soul, your spirit, and it goes from there. And you have to make that decision first for yourself. I'm done. I don't want to live like this. I do not want to be an angry, bitter person, because you know in your core that's not who you are, but yet there you are. And which leads me, and I love that you said woo-woo, because I feel I get that kind of thrown my way a lot too, me and my woo-woo stuff. And it used to cause me to shrink back. And now I'm almost laughing inside, because it's my woo-woo stuff that has saved me. And I know at my breaking point, when you felt like you're just, I'm done with all of this outside stuff, inside of me. I want it out. I want freedom. I know I want peace, and I just want that joy back. Like, where is she? I want her back. It was the how. I felt very lost. Like, I knew how I wanted to feel. I knew who I was inside, but I felt so disconnected from that person. And I struggled with how do I get back? Which leads me to the question, how did you get back? And I know with this 1.5 page notes that I haven't even gotten really into, we might have to do this again, because there's a lot of topics here. But the two things that really helped me and that I pulled out, you talked about energy work and the subconscious mind. And I'm curious how that has helped you and what that looks like, and explain it in a way that people have no idea what we're talking about. Energy work, subconscious mind sounds pretty woo-woo. Well, it is, but it works. So
I did this video a few years ago during pandemic, because I saw pandemic as a proof for the energetical world, the metaphysical world. We are all connected. The way the virus spread was the evidence of how we are all freaking connected. Everything, everybody and everything, because not only the pandemic impacted people, it impacted nature, it impacted even the cars and the planes. It's like everything is linked. It's insane, but it is. And it stops being woo-woo. It's like Einstein taught about it, you know? This is physical proofs. This is quantum physics. This is mathematics. This is logic. And we have to remember that we have influence. We make a change through our every word. Every word that I'm speaking now will impact first you, then people who's going to hear it. Everything has impact. So from here, when we contemplate on that, even if we don't believe it, and still our mind is like, yeah, but it's fine. Like, keep contemplating on that, because it will grow your consciousness. There is this exercise that you keep taking your hands every day wider and wider, and you keep wanting to see them, like with the corner of your eyes. And this is how you grow your sight, your vision. So every day you go further and you keep seeing more and more. This is literally what you do with also seeing more and more about the world, about the sense, the depths, the love, the relations, the freedom. So the more you see, the harder it gets. Because then you realize that when you react to your children saying, "What did he say?" it will make an impact. Yes. And you keep being more and more aware, and it will confront you, and it will make you mad, and you will wish that you didn't know about it because it was easier before. But it will make your life more beautiful. It will take it to the next level in terms of the quality of your daily life, of your relations, of everything. So it's worth it.
And it's just the energy that you bring with you wherever you go. And that energy, it makes or breaks your life. Speaking of your video, I highly recommend everyone watch that. It's the thank you coronavirus, which I have to laugh. I can't help but think of the thank you notes. Is it, now I'm blinking. Is it Jimmy Fallon that does the thank you notes? Oh my gosh, I should know that right off the bat. But I had the thank you coronavirus. And I thought, oh my gosh, I should do a list of that. Everyone should do a list of that, of what they learned, what good came out of it. I want to highlight a couple of these things. It does. A couple of the talking points that I loved, you had so many great, it's just a 3-4 minute video. It was short, but it was so beautiful. I think everyone should watch it over and over and over and come up with their own list and work from it. I loved that you had said, like a couple things was, thank you for stopping us to make us see how lost we were in the busyness. So incredibly guilty. And I tell you, I do use that as a reminder because it was a very, very big reset for me. And I feel some days where it sounds crazy, but it's almost the pull to get back into that busyness is so intense from the outside world and oftentimes from the inside world, like in my own home, being a mom of 4. And signing up for everything. And then just, it was really, really hard to have those hard no's of, I'm not going back to that lifestyle. And that's really, really tough. That's one thing I want to mention. I have a couple questions. I loved that part of the video. It's you mentioned, not having time for the most basic things. And there was that couple dancing. And I think of when we were at home with COVID, just, 2 days ago, I pulled up, we cut one of my son's hair was super long and we ended up giving him a buzz cut, but everyone got a chance with the scissors in the family. And we took the picture of Jim Carrey. Oh gosh, was it in Dumb and Dumber, where he had the haircut that goes straight across and it's all down? And so we took this, we made my son's hair look like that. And so we pulled up the little picture, and he's got his eyes to the side and this and that, but that is what we were doing. And I still pull up that picture and we laugh about it. And the closeness and those memories that we think we're creating memories all the time by constantly being this crazy busy. I have to take my kids here. I have to sign them up for this. We have to travel to 12 different states so they can play with the ball in a different field. And no, we don't. And it takes I'm speaking, I don't want to make this sound like I'm putting anyone down, but I had to be so incredibly strong and tough to put those hard limits on myself and really stick to it and not back down. And I still feel bad. There's still times I feel bad about it, but I feel it's that there's something about the connection and the disconnection that really hit me in your video. And I hope I'm not rambling. I'll narrow it back in. I realize how disconnected I was from myself for so long. And COVID really, really opened that up for me. That stop everything, stop all that outside stuff, and connect with myself in a way of, what do I want? Who really am I? Who do I really like spending time with? Who makes me feel good? Who am I spending time with out of guilty obligation, or that society says you should, or what I should do? And those questions, as the years go on, I feel it's sad, Riya, because I watched your video and I think to myself, are we slipping back this fast already? Because that disconnectedness, I see it again already. And I feel some days it is. I feel like you're walking an uphill battle to stay connected with yourself. I felt so disconnected with myself for so many years, living a chaotic, busy life and feeling, and I mean, just full of anxiety all the time. When I watch your video, I feel so calm and at peace. And I wonder how many people at the end of the day can say, I feel at calm and at peace with my life and my decisions and the way I'm living it right now. So, wow, your video is amazing. And can I touch on one other thing? And then I don't know, from anything I've said, I don't even know if I'm really asking you questions at this point. You also, one of the thank yous was, thank you for all the fear. It has been a global disease for years, which is so true. And I think if people watch it and really understand fear, because so many of us live from a place of fear every day, even the busyness, the crazy busyness. It's that fear of missing out, that fear of not being a good enough parent if I don't sign them up for everything. If everything isn't baked from scratch, if I don't show up to every invitation, if I don't, work 60 hours a week, if I don't prove and earn, it all stems from fear. And I have learned over these last few years a feel of not feeling worthy, not being enough, and not feeling valuable unless I am striving, doing, earning, and proving. And again, it's one of those things where I looked at my life and I call bullshit on myself. And that little video is that reminder. We are all living in so much fear. do we ever stop to realize, even, why am I asking ourselves this question? If I don't like what I'm doing, if it's causing all this inside, and for me, it was severe anxiety. And that was one of the questions I started asking myself. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And really, really getting honest and raw and truthful with yourself. What am I afraid of? And it is crazy what we pull out of us. And I think that kind of leads me back to even the how of how you did it. You decided, I'm a mature, responsible adult. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to be this example for my kids. This is who I want to be. And it's instead of living in that ingrained pattern, which is that subconscious mind, making a conscious choice and effort. And for me, my experience with the energy healing, and I feel like I've almost just begun, it is being so incredibly in tune with my body, my feelings, where I'm feeling it, and my intuition. And when we live that way, we live a life that we were created to live, and we feel so connected to ourselves, like this bigger universe, which is written all over, thank you, coronavirus. And that is how you're connected to your kids, and say, I don't want to just label your enemies, but it's a choice.
And this is what I meant also when I was mentioning that thank you for all the fear, because if you want to go deeper, you have to ask yourself the question that you ask yourself, what am I afraid of? And this is something that I think most of the people had to ask. What am I afraid of? And also why I'm choosing to do things out of fear. Because this was another piece of making decisions. I'm doing this because I'm afraid that if I don't, ... or if I do something that I love, ... And this was also one of the things that we had to confront during the pandemic. And I agree that it got even, I think it got faster after, now it's getting even faster than it was before. But what I really deeply trust in is that we have different consciousness. And we know more, we know better. And what is important is to remember, is to keep reminding ourselves about the things that are really, really crucial, and what will we remember at the end of our lives, because this is what matters most.
Yeah.
So having that in our hearts, we can keep pushing the, how do you say it, when you drive the car and you want
the pedal?
Sorry?
Pushing the pedal.
Yes, pushing the pedal with the gas, and you can go faster, but just remember you're driving, remember everything that is important for you, and then you can go faster.
Yeah. Riya, thank you so much for sharing your heart, your wisdom. Wow. This has been an incredible conversation. And I have pages of stuff I wanted to talk on, so we may just have to do this again. So a couple things. Number one, I highly recommend everyone go on YouTube for one and find Riya Sokol. The video we're talking about is Thank You Coronavirus, but you have all kinds of videos, fun and fascinating. They're short, and it really gets you thinking. And I highly encourage everybody to get a pen and paper out and write down, start right there. Thank you, coronavirus. What are you really thankful for? And I think, one question, and I might have to do a couple separate podcasts on our conversation, but I'm curious, and maybe you've asked this question to people, if you had a lot of resets after COVID, checking in with ourselves, how are we doing on that right now? Because now, when time passes, it is easy to kind of fall back into those old patterns. But so all of our listeners, where can they find you?
all of our listeners can find me all over internet. Literally, I'm everywhere, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, even recently on Pinterest. And I also think about Twitter. So I'm all over the place and I'm happy about it. You can find me anywhere, singing, speaking, my interviews, my podcasts, my reels, my stories, my stage speaking, my singing performances, everything, everywhere, literally. But I have one request to our listeners. If you got inspired in any moment, like if you feel there was something really important that touched you, I have two requests. First of all, go and speak about it with someone. Like, say what you just heard and elaborate on that, contemplate on that, share with your friend, with your husband, with your wife, with anybody else, like what you just heard and what it made you feel, why it really made you think about it. And the second request is go and share with at least two people that this conversation is worth listening to and watching, because I think it's very beautiful conversation. I think it was very precious, and I think it's worth sharing. So please do.
Yes. And I think too, there's so many people that are touched by just the divorce in general, and how that is an act of love, just sharing this, because you have no idea who you're going to inspire or empower to really have what you have with your ex and his new family and with your daughters, because that is beautiful. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
I had so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to Authentically Raw. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email, jamie@jamieberris.com, and let me know what episodes resonate with you and why. Are you a people pleaser? If so, I need your help. Please, I'm writing a book about people pleasing, titled The People Pleaser's Guide to Pissing People Off, to improve your relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. And I'm looking for personal stories of how people pleasing has impacted your life, or sucked the life out of you. Maybe people pleasing has held you back, caused you to feel resent, regret, anger, powerlessness, or just plain exhaustion. Let me know how it's impacted your life. Who knows, maybe your story will inspire my writing and grace the pages in some shape or form in this handy dandy little guide. Also, if you enjoy the Authentically Raw content, please support the show by following and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. Simply scroll down through the episodes and you will see where to do so. Want to learn more about life coaching? Head over to my website, jamieberris.com, and check it out. You can also follow me on social media at Jamie Berris for lots of inspiration and empowerment. One last thing, I'm rooting for you. Be real, be raw, be authentic.